For latest astrology videos, subscribe AstroEdify channel and press this bell icon to get notified when a new video goes live. Hello everybody, welcome to AstroEdify. Today we are going to talk about the house significations in Vedic astrology. What does each house represent and control or signify in the chart? That we are going to see today. Before, we have already covered what does each planet symbolize and why does it symbolize or control particular things. If you have not watched those videos, you can watch it in the playlist of the channel. Its link is also shown in the card section. And we are going to further discuss today what does each house represent. So let's start this video. If you want to book a consultation for yourself, you can go on this website. The link is given in the description. So we are going to start with the first house. Now, generally, first house is considered as the most important house because it controls the strength of the entire chart. I have said in my videos repetitively, previously, many times that Lagna means the first house, moon and the Lagna lord. They govern the strength of the entire horoscope. If they are not well placed, no matter how good your other planetary alignments are, the results are not going to be there in life. So it is considered, means the Lagna, the first house is considered one of the most important houses because it is you yourself. So if the personality, the thinking, the mindset, it means your own mind, you are not under control of it. It's continuously deluding you, misdirecting you, not able to make correct choices and decisions. Do you think that other planets are going to give proper results in life? No. So the thing here is that Lagna is considered, the ascendant is considered the most important house of the chart, which is responsible for governing the strength of the entire horoscope. So if the Lagna or Lagna lord are weak, then the whole horoscope becomes weak and the result of strong planets are also not seen properly. Now what does it control? So first of all, it is the karak of your body, yourself. So your body, your overall physical, mental health, your longevity, it's seen from the first house, how you think. So your personality, thinking, mindset, nature, behavior, characteristics, that is seen from the first house. Then it governs your confidence, appearance, strength, both mentally as well as physically. Strength is seen from the first house. Then it governs your status and image, which you portray in the society. It is your dignity, self-respect, intelligence, ego. And ego not per se like pride. It can show that, but mainly ego. What do you think of your own self? That is ego. So that is seen by the first house. Then if we talk about the physical body, it governs your head and brain and hair and skin. So this is what first house is. So I hope that you understand how much important this is. Now we come to second house. Now second house is the controller of several things. So second house, first of all, represents your speech, your vak shakti, speech, the ability to speak. It controls your vocal cords and oral cavity and throat. So all that region from where we speak and we communicate, that is second house. Then second house is also the house of our family. Then it governs, hence it governs inheritance. It is our food intake. It also is a house which represents our face, right brain, right eye. And second house is one of the most important houses for wealth and finance. It is known as the Dhana Bhava. So Dhan means wealth, the money which you accumulate, the savings which you have in your life, that is seen from second house. If second house lord is not well placed, or if malefic planets, bad planets are sitting in second house, it depletes your savings, it creates financial troubles. So second house is the most important house for wealth and finances. It is also significant house apart from fifth house for creativity and music. So this is what second house represent. And one more thing is that second house is considered as Marak Sthan. I have already covered what Marak houses are in the past videos of the basic series. I have discussed the type of houses, how we categorize the different types of houses like Dharma Trikona, Moksha Trikona, Marak houses, all that thing I have completed in the past videos. You can watch that. Hopefully, that is in the second or third part of this basic series playlist. So that is second house. Now, third house. Third house is the house of communication. All kinds of communication, verbal, non-verbal, all kind of communication is seen from third house. Then, not only the type of communication, it represents the means of communication as well. It can be mass communication, media, performing arts, technological communication, or like IT, telecom, networking. It represents transportation also, because that is a means of transport. So that communication not only through telecommunication or networking, but the means of transport which let us connect from one place to another, go from one place to another, that is also third house. So that is third. Then third house is the house of diplomacy, tact, negotiation. It controls sales, trade, and commerce of all kinds. Then it is the house of logic, reason, analysis, numbers. Naturally, third house is represented by Mars and Mercury together. So third house has the Mercurian qualities. Generally in Kalpurush Kundali, Gemini falls in the third house. So it is the sign of logic, reason, calculation, analysis, hence third house represents that. Then third house is the house of banking, accounts, audit, and anything which has to do with commercial part of the finance. Then third house represents our siblings, particularly the younger siblings. But in general, we see siblings from third house. It also shows our friends, relatives. Third house, as I said, Mars also governs third house naturally. So it is the house of courage, risk, fighting spirit, willpower, dedication, stamina, strength, and seriousness, persistent approach towards anything. That is third house. Then third house is the house of consistent, rigorous efforts. It is the house of adventure, short distance travels, change of any residence. Since third house is communication, it helps in teaching, preaching, education also. We can see teachers with this of any kind. Then if we talk about our body, third house represent ear, nose, throat, hands, arms, shoulders, is a respiratory system, thymus gland, thyroid gland, peripheral nervous system. And since it is second from second, and third and eighth from eighth, it is second house from the second house and eighth house from the eighth house. According to Bhavat Bhavam concept, it contributes to injuries, accident, surgery, and death. It is a malefic house. So the reason I have given to you. But it depends on the placement of the third lord and how the planets are sitting, if they are present any in the chart. So this is what third house is. Now we will talk about fourth house. Now fourth house is the karak of our mind. It is the Kendra house, considered very important. But why very important? Because it is our mind, our emotions and feelings, our mental stability, our prana vayu. Prana is of 5 types, the life forces which help us sustain the physiological processes. All kinds of physiological processes are controlled by prana. Prana is of 5 types: prana, apan, udan, vyan, and saman. These are 5 vayus, means life forces, which control our entire body, physiological processes in the body, everything. So that is fourth house. Now fourth house is the house of happiness, sukha, comfort, where you find peace, where you find happiness in your life, where you find solace. That is fourth house. It can be anything, but generally it is our home. So fourth house is the house of our home and comfort and peace and stability. And it is the house which represents our mother, our childhood, upbringing. Fourth house is the house of lands, properties, houses, residences, vehicles. Fourth house also shows food, nourishment, nutrition, agriculture, medicine, and it is the house of public, people in general. It also is considered the house of throne, highest position in anything, in any field. So the top positions can be seen from the fourth house. Then fourth house, if we talk about of our body, it represents the chest, breast in females, respiration, and heart. that is fourth house, and also governs cough in the body naturally. So this is what fourth house is, and hence fourth house is considered a Kendra house, important house, because of the factors which it represents, the things which it controls. They are very intrinsic part of our personality, our mind, and everything which we are looking for. Everybody is looking for peace and happiness in life. That is what we do. That is why we do any action in our life, to have peace and stability and happiness in our lives. So fourth house becomes a integral part of our personality. This is fourth house. Now fifth house. Now fifth house is the controller or significator of several things. First of all, fifth house is the part of dharma trikona. Dharma trikona here helps in learning, okay, the knowledge. So fifth house is the house of intelligence, the buddhi, the capacity to think, the capacity of your intellect. That is fifth house. Learning, knowledge, and education, teaching, how the person is, whether the person is going to perform well in academics or what kind of education they are going to have, that is seen from fifth house. Then fifth house is the house of creativity, very important for creativity, arts, beauty, design, entertainment, all kinds of arts. Actually every kind of art, whether it is music, fashion, acting, dance, drama, writing, anything which you can think of, fine arts of all kinds, that is seen from fifth house. Then fifth house is the house of show and glamour and fame. Then it is very important for sports. Fifth house and sixth house both represent sports. Fifth house is the house of our love affairs and romantic relationships. It is not the house of marriage, it is the house of relationships. So love relationships, affairs and romantic relationships can be seen from the fifth house. Then fifth house is the house of childbirth. So it controls our fertility, pregnancy, and the child in our lives, children. That is fifth house. Then fifth house is the house of investment, speculation, gambling, and stock market. All kinds of investment, particularly stock market investments, are seen from fifth house. If fifth house is bad, no matter how much you try, you are never gonna succeed in stock market gains. So apart from that, fifth house is seen for windfall gains, any immediate out of the blue gains. That is fifth house. Then it is seen for gains through marriage, because it is 11th from 7th. The 7th house is the house of marriage, and 11th house is the natural house of gains. So it is known as gains through marriage of any kind. It is not necessarily gain in a form of money. It can be anything, gain of fortune, gain of reputation, gain of any other particular thing in life. Then fifth house is seen for Purva Janma Karma, means past life actions. Why? Because fifth house is the house from where creation starts. If you don't understand this, see the first video of the basic series which I have made, where I have explained in detail how creation starts and how you can understand through astrology. So it is the house of our past life actions. It is the house of mantra. Then fifth house, if we talk about our body, again it is very important because it controls liver, pancreas, heart, stomach, gallbladder, and spinal cord. Many important parts of our body are seen from fifth house. So this is what fifth house is. Now sixth house is known as Dusthana house, means a malefic house, but also it is known as a Upachaya Sthana. Upachaya means which improves with time. It takes time gradually to improve it. So sixth house is the house which is generally a malefic house. And what are Dusthana houses? As I mentioned, watch the second video of this basic series where I have explained various types of houses, how they are categorized in Vedic astrology. Now, sixth house is the house of diseases and health problems of every kind. So diseases and health issues, it is the house of enemies, loans, liabilities and debts, litigation and court cases, conflicts, battles, fights, arguments, struggles, obstacles, delay, troubles of any kind is seen from sixth house. It is the house of misery and sorrow. It is the house of continuous hard work. Then it is the house which controls the Shad-ripu, 6 enemies of man. What are they? They are lust, anger, greed, attachment, ego, and jealousy. Those together form Shad-ripu, 6 enemies of man. They are seen from sixth house. Then sixth house is the house of divorce and separation. It is the house of defense, weapons, and wars. It represents abuse of every kind, trauma of every kind. Then sixth house also represents crime, chaos, and anarchy. And since it is the house of disease and health problems, it also is the house of medicine, fitness, and sports. Then sixth house is the house of competition and politics. Very, very important for politics. Then sixth house is the house of service, giving any service or doing any service, and it represents people who serve us also, like servants or labor or any kind of subordinates which you have. This is what sixth house is. Now, seventh house. Now, seventh house represents several things. First of all, seventh house is the house of Prakriti, the society, the material world where we live. So, first house is you yourself. Seventh house is the society in front of you, the world in front of you, which you are experiencing continuously. And why seventh house is the Prakriti, I have explained that again in the first video. Watch that how the first house means you are created, and how consequently to that seventh house is automatically created. I have explained that in detail there, so you can watch that for further clarity. Now, seventh house is the most important house for what? Your marriage, your spouse, your relationships. And it is the house of business, all kind of business activities, people who want to do business or are doing business. Seventh house must be prominent. If it is not, first of all, you cannot do business. And if it is not good and still you are trying to do business, you will never be successful. So the thing here is that business is controlled by seventh house. Partnerships, business or legal partnerships are controlled by seventh house. Seventh house is the house of Pad Prapti, means gain of position. So it is 10th from 10th. It is 10th house from the 10th house. So that's why it is known as Pad Prapti, gain of position, of power or authority in life. Then seventh house is the house of public image, means who is in front of you, the masses, the people, they are in front of you and they are watching you. So it represents our public image and persona, show and glamour and entertainment and creativity and performing arts, masses. It controls marketing and public relations. Seventh house is the house of lust and sexuality along with eighth house. It is a Marak Sthan. What Marak is, I have explained in second video, watch that. So Marak is a malefic house which has capacity to create problems of every kind if it is not good. Then seventh house, if our body is concerned, it governs urinary system, reproductive system, fertility in the body, abdomen and genital organs. That is what seventh house is. So this is what seventh house is, and since it is also making a important part of our lives, it is also a Kendra house, cardinal house. Now we will talk about eighth house. Now eighth house is again a Dusthan and a Marak Sthan, extremely malefic house. If it is not well placed and it is becoming strong regarding influence in the chart, then proper detailed analysis must be done, because eighth house has capacity to generate a lot of ups and downs and changes and difficulties if it is not good. So eighth house is the Dusthan house and Marak Sthan, means malefic as strong malefic, because Marak plus Dusthan, that is not a good thing. Then eighth house represents uncertainties, ups and downs, sudden changes, transformations of any kind in our life, any kind. Then it is the house of chronic or incurable diseases, accident, injury, surgery, trauma and abuse of every kind. It is the house of death and longevity both, because if it is strong, then it will support longevity. If it is weak, then it will reduce the longevity, hence it will support the death. So 8th house is seen for both death and longevity, but primarily longevity. It represents longevity. If it is not strong, then automatically longevity will be reduced and hence it will support death. Next point here is that the 8th house is the house of secrets, hidden things, mysteries, natural resources which we find buried under the ground. Anything which is hidden, which we have to extract from the earth, that is 8th house. Then 8th house, due to this, it controls manufacturing, heavy industries, engineering, and also mining. It is mining and oil and gas and all kinds of natural resources which you think, that is 8th house. It is also good for agriculture and construction and infrastructure. Then 8th house is the house of occult subjects like astrology or tantra or palmistry or shamanism, etc. So all kind of occult subjects that is seen from 8th house. 8th house is the house of research, development, analysis, planning, strategy, operations, that is 8th house. Then it shows tax and other people's money and inheritance. It is the house of politics, conspiracy, intrigue, scandal, controversies. It is the house of destruction, violence, fights, crime, struggle, obstacles, failures, sorrow, suffering, misery, death. And it is the house of in-laws. It is very important for in-laws, your in-laws. Then we can see paranormal things, as I said, mysterious things, paranormal things and intuition from 8th house. If we talk about our body, it represents genital organs, large intestine, colon and rectum, means the excretory system of the body, spinal cord, pelvic and the waist, that is 8th house. So this is what 8th house is, and that is the reason why 8th house is not considered good, because most of the things which we discuss, they are not good. Most people are afraid of these things, so that's why 8th house is and 8th house with afraid, I remember that 8th house represents your worst fears which you have in your mind, all kinds of insecurities. That is what 8th house is. So this is what 8th house signifies. Now 9th house. 9th house is the house of Dharma Trikona and one of the most important houses of Dharma Trikona. So 9th house is also responsible for creation. Again, this is what I have explained in the first video. If you have not watched that, watch that. I will highly request here, because 9th house, why it is important, that I have explained there. Why creation starts from 9th. And apart from that, 9th house is the house of Dharma. Dharma means not your religion. Dharma means your duty, and particularly the capacity which makes us human. Merely having a body does not make you a human being. Human being means a entity which is capable of being human, has humanity in him or her. So, and that humanity distinguishes us from an animal. That is what dharma is. So dharma is required for what? For civilization to exist, for this world to sustain, for law and justice to prevail. If it is not there, none of them will survive. So 9th house represents the dharma, the duty, morals, ethics, values, principles, ideologies, belief system which we make for ourselves and which makes us human, different from an animal. That is what 9th house is. Then 9th house is Jnana. Jnana does not mean only knowledge. Jnana means knowledge along with wisdom. It controls a deep thinking and foresight as well. 9th house is the house of philosophy and spiritual life and religion, culture, and your forefathers, your fathers, ancestors and forefathers. That is 9th house. 9th house is also the house of Purva Janma Karma. Why? Because creation starts from 9th house. Watch the first video. Then Bhagya. It is the house of fortune, the fate, the destiny. How much luck you have. That is Bhagya. 9th house. Then it is the house of higher learning and higher education, research, analysis, development, invention, innovation, design. It is the house of our teachers, mentors, gurus, and it controls foreign lands, travels, long distances, pilgrimages. Then ninth house is the house of law, justice, all legal machinery. That is ninth house. Then ninth house is the house of policy, management, and administration as well. It supports for writing, printing, and publishing and media. Then ninth house is known as Lakshmi Sthan, house of wealth. Very important. Then and not when I say wealth, do not misunderstand with only money. Wealth of anything, wealth of knowledge is also wealth. Wealth of happiness is also wealth. Wealth does not necessarily mean the wealth of kind or money. That is not the meaning of wealth here. No, Lakshmi means abundance of any good auspicious thing in your life. That is ninth. Then ninth house is the house of your pelvic region and thighs. It controls fat, arteries, and blood circulation. This is what ninth house is. Now we will talk about 10th. So 10th house is again a Kendra house, very important because it is the house of actions. It is the karma sthan. Karma means actions which you do. And remember, action mean any kind of action. And since most importantly action is considered to be done in a professional setup, so it controls career, profession, and workplace. What kind of your career will be, how your career will be, what your profession could be, how successful you are going to be in your profession. That is seen from 10th. So 10th house is the house of career, profession, and workplace. And the karma sthan means general actions of every kind. Apart from career, it controls action of every kind. That is 10th house. Then 10th house is the house of material progress and success, power, authority, leadership, governance, management, authority, government, administration, law. That is 10th house. All kind of powerful positions are seen from 10th house. Then 10th house is the house of politics, policy, law and order, public image, status, reputation, respect, fame and popularity, and the name which you make for yourself through your actions. That is 10th house. Then if we talk about our body, it controls our knees and musculoskeletal system. So that is why it is considered a Kendra house, an important house, because it governs an important aspect of our lives. Then 11th house. 11th house is the house of Labh Sthan. Labh means gains. And gains, not only material gains of money, it shows money, no doubt, but gain of any kind, anything. So Labh means gain. So 11th house is the house of gains. It is the house of our wealth and finances and source of income. Then it controls our desires, wishes which we have in our minds. It is the house of our social circle, of friends which we have. It controls media, networking, IT, and space, or anything which is so huge, vast and unexplored. That is 11th house. It is the house of aviation and aeronautics. It is very important for business and entrepreneurship after 7th house. It also shows sales and trade, supply chain, logistics, distribution, commerce, accounts, economics. It is important for politics, and it shows elder siblings. This is what 11th house is. So 11th house is also relevant. Of course, every house is relevant, but 11th house supports our income inflow and other aspects which we discussed. That is why it is responsible for our finances. If 2nd and 11th are not strong, financial troubles start to happen easily. Now the last but not the least is 12th house, and 12th house is the Dusthana house. So similarly to 8th house, it is also not considered a good house. It is a Dusthana house, not a good one. It has capacity to bring difficulties in our lives. So 12th house is the house of losses of any kind. It is also the house of expenditure, but mainly loss of anything: loss of health, loss of family, loss of money, loss of career, loss of power, loss of reputation, loss of life, loss of anything. That is 12th house. So 12th house is the house of losses. 12th house is isolation, separation, denial of anything. It can be denial, like I said, it can be denial of relationship, denial of marriage, denial of birth of child, denial of education, denial of money, denial of career, anything. That is denial of 12th. A denial is seen from 12th. Then 12th house is the house of instability, sudden changes and transformations, just like 8th house. Then it also brings delay, obstacles, bondages, suffering, misery, trauma, abuse, difficulties, death, and destruction. That is why it is a bad house. Then 12th house is the house of jails, imprisonment, asylums, hospitals, laboratories, or any kind of isolated facilities. It controls secrets, hidden things, mysterious things, paranormal things. It is the house of research and development. Foreign lands, foreign things are seen from 12th house. Travels of long distances of foreign to foreign, 12th house. 12th house is the house of bed pleasures and conjugal life. Very important for marriage. Then 12th house is the house of our subconscious mind, dreams, sleep, imagination, left side of the brain, feet. It is also a house of utter highest spirituality, that is yoga, dhyana, samadhi, and moksha. That is 12th house. So, this is what 12th house is. But as I mentioned so far, it represents many negative things, but it is also responsible for many positive things, like a spiritual life. I said it's not always bad. So the thing here is that you have to see how it is acting out in the chart. So I hope that you would have understood by now what does each house represent in Jyotish. So if you are new to my channel, subscribe below for more. Check on my website and Facebook page and Instagram. Their link are given in the description. Otherwise, we will meet in the next video. Till then, goodbye and thank you.